Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady coming to you for a last Sunday in March foodscape tour. I again can't believe how much has started to grow, how many leaves have come out just in the last 7 days since my last tour. So I can't wait to take you around and show you all the progress. So let's start right here in my front bed where the tulips that I planted last fall have started to bloom. All those greens that I direct seeded are growing really strong. I've been harvesting salads, lots of cilantro where I've been making salsa from, and the big clumps of barley, though they're a little beat down from last night's rain, are growing really well. This is going to look so awesome in really just a couple of weeks' time. This bed that I renovated earlier this season is filling out great, and you can see those broccolis that I planted about a month ago have really started to get a lot bigger. Of course, these anemones, which I featured in a video earlier this week, just keep pushing out new flowers. They are so amazing. I am totally addicted to this plant. I need a whole lot more of these next year. Out here, you can really see the difference between poppies that I sowed, they're about that size, versus self-sown poppies, which are already starting to develop, upright growth. So it's not going to be long before the poppies start to show off. Another new development, I got my succulents out of my heated shed and got this window box hung. Of course, we have some freezing temperatures in the forecast for a few days from now, but that's easy enough to pull off and bring inside to shield from temperatures below 32. Out here in the barley wave, everything has just grown so much in the last week. And I'm really happy to see the start of those fingerling potatoes that I planted about 2 weeks ago. The rabbits are really starting to make their mark in the garden. They already had a batch of babies, and those potatoes are really going to be my main safeguard from keeping this bed from getting everything eaten. So I'm anxious for them to grow more. Of course, having the larkspur and poppies mixed in helps significantly. It's amazing though, it's like all the energy in this bed is going towards the barley. So look at how small the larkspurs still are. But here again, it's the start of some potatoes in this border, which will give me a great insurance policy. So over here in this border that I didn't do any bed prep for, when I sowed the poppies in that section, I tossed seed here as well. And I am impressed. I need to come out and weed. You can see I have a lot of vetch. That's this. Have a lot of lamium or henbit, but in here, those are all poppies. And even in the dog run, which is basically this sweep right here, there are poppies and larkspur germinating. So I'm gonna count that as a success. I would still recommend amending your soil to some degree, because you can see this bed is nice composted soil, even though I didn't add it this year. When I was tossing those seeds, the bed was somewhat prepared to be amenable for seeds to germinate. So this is definitely the time of year where it feels like you're never gonna get ahead of the weeds, and realistically you're not. And if I have one more person tell me the benefits of this for pollinators, I'm gonna freak out, because honestly, I grow plants that are of way greater benefit to pollinators than those fleeting things that will take over the world, including this great phlox subulata. But try to enjoy the season and don't get too stressed out. I mean, when I come out here, I'm showing you the pretty purple flowers, but what I'm seeing is all this vetch, and how I'm never really gonna get rid of it. I'm gonna pull it so it doesn't go to seed, but every bit that you pull, the roots break off and you end up with twice as much. So, you know, this is just one of those realities of of gardening. You're always gonna have something that keeps you on your toes, and this season weeds are it. It's amazing how much the foliage has come out on the forsythias. You can see this is that variegated variety Cumson I talked about last week. It's almost viburnum season. I love viburnums. I have probably 15 or 20 different varieties. This is viburnum macrocephalum. A lot of times people think this is a hydrangea because it has these big balls, but it's not. This is a viburnum. Hydrangeas don't bloom this early. So I'm really looking forward to these flowering. I'll do a viburnum tour probably next week when they're more in flower. I did get this bed weeded and it looks so much better. I'm really excited because I have all this money plant and this is the first time it's flowered. So this is a biennial, so it takes some time, 2 seasons to get it to bloom. And then that forsythia that I featured last week is still the star of the show. You can see comparatively, it's only put out a tiny little bit of foliage growth, and it's just covered in these amazing flowers that are wonderful cuts. I still haven't tracked down the name, which is unfortunate, but I highly recommend it. Again, everything is just growing so fast. It's a very exciting time, and the garlic edges look awesome. I'm gonna have a lot of garlic to harvest this year. Everything's just starting to wake up. Harvested a bunch of violas last night to add to the salad, which was delicious. All of the blueberries are really starting to flower now. I like to grow my blueberries in hedges. That way they're really easy to harvest, and you put a bunch of different varieties together so the bees are just mixing up all that pollen, which is what will ensure that you'll have really heavy berry set. So this is actually 4 different cultivars right here in a row. Another blueberry flowering here, that's right across the way, and a bunch of different cabbages. What I really wanted to show you is Roma resorta in full flower. This is just one of my all-time favorite camellias. I love the heritage varieties. This was introduced in 1866. And to me, it's just one of the most beautiful flowers that you could ever grow. So I have my spring garden security here staged, ready for me to start more seeds and plant more containers, and when the time comes, get ready to overhaul some of the spring spaces. Now here's a bed that I haven't weeded yet, and it's a disaster, but as soon as I'm done with this video, I am going to attack it, at least until the storms hit. Over here, this bed is reading a little disorganized to me, even though intellectually I know that it's not really weedy, but let's go over what's in here. So this is larkspur. You see it's almost ready to start bolting into flower. Those are self-sown, same with this poppy. I would never have planted them on the very edge, but I'm also not going to get rid of them. This is a black wheat variety. That's how carrot here, this foliage. And I like to let my carrots flower because it's really great for the pollinators, and especially for the swallowtail caterpillars. In about a month, they'll munch on that foliage. Here's a self-sown clump of oats. That's from last season. And again, not the right place, but I didn't sow a lot of oats this year, so I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna dig that up and put it in a container just so that this bed edge will read more organized. I clearly have a lot of chickweed to pull out. It's in flower right now, so this is the time to get it before it goes to seed. Again, save your comments about eating chickweed for somebody else. I grow plenty of stuff that tastes better than chickweed, y'all. You're not gonna convince me to start cultivating chickweed on purpose. the daikon radish. Some are in flower now, and I just love them. They are really great for, you know, early season pollinators. And this is how I get the daikon radish, just to self-sow, so I don't really have to do any seeding anymore. The issue with that is that they self-sow in funny places. They don't transplant real well. It's amazing how much, like, you know, the hydrangeas are fully leafed out, you know, just in time for us to go down to 28, of course. This is kind of the yo-yo effect that we have in the southeast, where it's just really difficult to trust spring. Now, I did a video the other day on redbuds, and it's incredible. We've had night temperatures in like the upper 60s, how much the Cercis canadensis have started to flower. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's just all kinds of different bees buzzing around, gathering nectar from this. But you see, it's a very different form compared to the Chinese redbud, which I'll show you. One of my all-time favorite plants for spring interest is this broadleaf evergreen called Neolithia sericea. And why I love it so much is this like velvety bronze new foliage. It is so beautiful. And this gets like bright yellow flowers, usually late summer, early fall. It's just an altogether really awesome plant. Definitely marginally hardy, much farther north than here. Getting this established took, you know, some effort in the early years, but now I think it's just growing really well. Just look at that new growth. It is so cool. There's another Roma resorta. I think I have 3 of that one type. But one of the biggest changes in just the last week is how the Edgeworthias have almost totally finished blooming. At least the chrysanthas have. So you see all the flowers have fallen off and they're starting to push out foliage growth. Now the pepifera, or what I call pepifera, is in the final stages of its bloom. And so that's again a reason to grow both, because it sort of extends that flowering period. You know, comparatively, these are much smaller than the Edgeworthia chrysantha flowers, but now that the chrysantha is not flowering, I really appreciate this. You have to love little trilliums. I don't have a great trillium collection, but I really do appreciate this plant, and I need to just gather up some more. These are just starting to bloom and they are so charming. Now, we had a really mild winter, really like technically a zone 9 winter. So things like calla lily didn't even die to the ground. And so, you know, these are already growing really quite abruptly. I'll probably have flowers in, you know, a few weeks. So that's the advantage of, you know, mild winters. Now, also recognize Xanadisha, the calla lily, really likes wet soil, and this is a bog. This is a natural bog. It's not me creating anything. I'm just trying to utilize the ideas of permaculture and put plants in the appropriate spots so that, you know, a plant that likes water, I'm not putting it in a place where I constantly have to water it. I'm putting it in a place where it's going to get the water it needs without me having to work. So I did start my tomato seeds earlier than I would have liked to, but I needed to create a video for an online, like a virtual tomato festival. And of course, we have 28 degrees predicted for Thursday night. So if these start to germinate in the next few days, they're gonna all have to go into the garage because that's gonna be too cold for tomatoes. But it's really funny, YouTube, you know, loves to inform me of what people like and what they don't. And apparently nobody really liked my tomato video. But I think you'll enjoy these more once they start growing and you see, you know, the fruits of this labor. I happen to love growing heirloom tomatoes, so it'll be a big part of the channel this summer. Now this is going to be poppy heaven. You see, these have just, I had to stop building the bottle wall here because I didn't want to disrupt all the poppies in between, but I'm close to being able to have enough to actually complete this wall. This is going to be so beautiful. I cannot wait until this starts blooming. And you know, all of these planters are doing well. I really need to come out and clip off a lot of this broccoli. I have more broccoli starts that need to get planted, so I just need to take these plants out and put new ones in. And talk about the hillside of poppies. This is going to be a serious show in a matter of weeks. Oh, I just can't wait, you guys. It's going to be so awesome. So the potato grow bags are doing really well. This one needs to get another treatment of compost today. Look at those self-sown poppies. I've shown you these throughout different tours. You see how enormous they are. That border that I planted 2 weeks ago is doing really well. Figs are all starting to leaf out. These bags, I added soil to these a week ago, so they haven't quite grown out. But for the most part, everything's doing really well. These have just started to break the surface, so I can add more compost to these. And the arugula has gotten to that, like, drive me crazy stage. But part of that's just because we've been getting really heavy rain, and we have more rain, you know, coming this afternoon. So I'm just trying to not spend a lot of time in here because I want this to self-sow. So I can't come and clean this up because the seed isn't ripe. You see, it's still flowering, it hasn't set seed yet. The seed will come in these little capsules, but it's, you know, several weeks away from being at the stage where I can come in and mow this down and get this bed cleaned up. So for now, I'm just trying to temper myself and not be a control freak, which is hard. That Clematis I showed you last week continues to just look absolutely amazing. And it smells so good, you guys. It's incredible. Now I have been busy weeding this morning. Decided to take a break to make this video, but you see I've got a full load. Just trying to clean up these beds. You see where I've been, and then you see where I haven't been. You can see a whole bunch of chickweed in there. It's all in flower now. I'm really pleased with the feed tank planting. It's the tulips are just starting to show up here, and this is a mix of purple and yellow, and I didn't do that on purpose, but it's exactly the mix that is the emoji for a bouquet. Another bed over here that desperately needs some weeding and attention, and I'm kind of, even though there are poppies mixed in, I think I'm just gonna try and weed it all, and I'm gonna plant all that kohlrabi in here, make a big impact with that. And this is my next place. These original Caveen potato grow bags are I'm endlessly entertained by these. I don't know how to describe it. I wish they were a little taller, just because I would love to add more compost to them. And again, I'm still trying to figure out how I can get these bags into every second grade classroom so that we can inspire a new generation to, you know, appreciate science and just have a better understanding of where food comes from. So if you have any ideas, let me know. Royal Velvet, Camellia japonica, looking better than ever. Hopefully you're following No Rules Gardening. We just posted a new video talking about our March Madness Camellia Sweet 16. We're down to the final 4. I'm still crushed that Jax didn't make it to the final 4. Look at this plant, you guys. It's so amazing. Look at that flower. How could anyone resist that amazing bloom? Now here is what I really think is the star of the show right now. This is Cercis chinensis Don Egoff. This is the Chinese redbud. It's an absolutely incredible plant. It's covered in pollinators right now. The flowers are edible. I used them last night in a salad. Super delicious and really colorful. The great thing about this plant is it's sterile, so it's not going to seed all over the place. It's never going to become invasive. So I highly recommend it. It's a multi-stem trunk, flowers all the way to the ground on every single branch. And it's just a truly spectacular specimen. And then behind that is a plant that I'm really fond of because I'm from the north and I like real lilacs, you know, lilacs that smell good. Oh my God, it brings me back to like being 8 and I don't know, the middle of May in Michigan, I had lilacs outside of my bedroom window. And yeah, there's something really amazing about scent memory. And I think for a lot of people, lilacs are a plant that maybe remind you of your grandparents or just times from your childhood. And for those of you who have relocated to the South like me, lilacs actually need longer cold chill hours, or the traditional varieties do, so that's why you don't see them more commonly in the, you know, the southern landscape. But this variety is called Excel, and it's really just a plant that I'm deeply in love with. I will say this year I'm really concerned because it has a lot of dieback, so I'm going to propagate it. Now is actually the ideal time. These really soft tender shoots are like that juvenile growth is what roots really easily, because I want to make sure that I have backups of this because I can't find it anywhere. It's just a really terrific plant that I wish was more commonly available so that everybody could enjoy this wonderful fragrance. Well, I hope that this last week of March garden tour will inspire all of you to get outside and maybe get busy planting. And I look forward to sharing more updates as spring continues to roll on, frost or no frost. Thank you all so much for watching.